Harper Audio presents The Working Class Republican, Ronald Reagan and the Return of Blue-Collar Conservatism by Henry Olsen, read by Derek Shetterly. Introduction. I grew up as a conservative Republican in Ronald Reagan's California. To call me die-hard would be understating my belief and commitment. I was the only volunteer in the Santa Clara County GOP HQ on August 9, 1974, the day Richard Nixon resigned. Working my way up from a volunteer to a young political consultant to a candidate myself, I inhaled the standard California conservative belief in very low taxes, a minimum of government, and a maximum of personal freedom. And, like all Californians of that age, I knew who our leader was, Ronald Wilson Reagan. Leaving the Golden State in my mid-20s didn't make me any less of a California conservative. I was part of the Conservative Federalist Society while at law school and clerked for a former Reagan staffer on the U.S. Circuit Court. The candidate I helped elect to the Pennsylvania State House in 1994 was derided as an extreme right-winger. My post-law career took me into the free market think tank world, where for 20 years I held high executive posts in nationally known institutions. Ronald Reagan and limited government were as important to me in my 40s as they were in my teens. Barack Obama's election and the Republican wipeouts of 2006 and 2008 were catastrophic events that shook me to the core. They should not have happened according to everything the conservative movement had been saying for decades. Republicans were increasingly becoming conservative and increasingly winning more elections at all levels. Polls showed America remained a center-right nation where conservatives outnumbered liberals by about 2-1. Yet this country had decisively elected the most liberal man ever to be nominated by a major party for president. How could this happen? As dark as things looked in early 2009, I remembered they looked even darker in 1977, when Republicans held less than a third of the seats in the House of Representatives, and fewer than half of those Republicans were conservatives. 4 years later, led by Reagan, conservatives had taken over the GOP and dethroned liberal Democrats from the political perch they had held for a generation. I resolved to look back to learn what Reagan did so that I could help today's conservatives meet our rendezvous with destiny. What I found shocked me. Everything I had been told about Reagan's philosophy by the right and the left had been wrong. And I learned it was his own distinct and original philosophy, not his charisma or his pragmatism, that had allowed him to change his party, his country, and his world. This book is the story of what I found. It is the story of a young New Dealer who moved to California and became a conservative, but never left his youthful admiration of Franklin Roosevelt behind. It is the story of a man whose conservative conversion did not lead him to abandon his belief that government, preferably state or local, but federal if necessary, should give people in need a hand up to help them pursue their dreams. It is the story of a man who, while lionized by the right and demonized by the left, transcended left and right. It is the story of the real Ronald Wilson Reagan, and how conservatives today could realize their dreams if only they knew who he was. This story will revise what most people think about Reagan. It will lay to rest the claims that he sought to tear down the modern entitlement welfare state in favor of a 19th-century night watchman state that protects people's bodies while being indifferent to their souls. It will show that from the minute Reagan entered the political arena, he rejected the idea shared by left and right that the major political question was purely over government power. It will show that while Reagan was suspicious of government power, he always believed that justice and fairness were more important measures of what government did than the simple fact that it did it. In short, it will show that Reagan was a working-class Republican, and that this unique philosophy was the secret to his political success. We will start our journey at the beginning, those youthful years when Reagan was what his older self called a hemophiliac liberal. His devotion to Franklin Delano Roosevelt knew no bounds. Reagan's contemporaries remember him as hopelessly committed to the president who remade America and the Democratic Party. Our study will show, however, that his liberalism was not theoretical or ideological. Instead, it came from a deep love for the average individual and Reagan's belief that every person was capable of leading a free and dignified life.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?